Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to write an equation in point-slope form. Alright, so before we actually write an equation in point-slope form, I just want you guys to understand what point-slope form is. It is another variation of an XY equation. So, another variation of an equation of a line. Now, I did draw this on the side, so this is a coordinate plane. Remember, this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis here, and here's a line, and this is what it really means. This point right here have both x and y, and this point right here has also both x and y. But know this is my very first x, so this will be y1, this will be x1 and y1 right here. So x1, y1. Over here, this would be my second x, so x2, y2. Now, for point-slope form to take an effect, this is how we would write in point-slope form. It would be y minus the very first y, y1, equals m, which is slope, times x minus the very first x1. So know that this y and this x never really change, but what we're going to replace is this y and this x, which is our y1 and x1. Alright, so this is what we have, and this is what we considered point-slope form. And I want you guys to understand this is still slope, so m is always going to be slope. This is my first y, so what we will change. And this is also another term that we're going to change, and we're going to replace it with a number here. Alright, so that's not going to change. That's going to change. So what I did is make sure you guys understand, here are the three things we need in order to write an equation in point-slope form. We don't need this x, nor do we need that y, but we need the ones that I circled. Okay, so let's look at an equation. Alright, so we're going to write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through, here's the point, -2, 1, with a slope of -6, then graph the equation. So I want you guys to write this down. So step 1, we're going to write the point-slope formula. Sorry. So we're going to write the point-slope formula. Now remember, the point-slope formula, once again, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I want you to keep in mind the minus signs here, which is also what we call negative signs. Here's step number 2. We're going to label the information given. Now for this particular problem, they gave us a point, and that point is -2, 1. That's the coordinate point. They also gave us slope. So first of all, let's look at the point. Since the point is -2, 1, that means my x1 is equal to -2, and my y1 is equal to 1. They also gave us slope. Slope is -15. -6. So we can put here slope, which means m is equal to -6. Alright, so remember I told you guys, keep in mind of the negative sign, or the minus sign. Let's look at step 3. What we're going to do is plug in the values. Now, just like what we did before, we're going to plug in the values into the equation. Alright, so this is the equation. Once again written down. and we're going to plug in the values. Now, we're plugging in into this value, and this value. So the y here we're not touching, and the x that's here we're not touching at all. So let's go ahead and plug in the values. So we have y minus y1, and y1 in this case is 1. Alright, equals m in this case is -6, times x, we don't change that x, but we will change this x, so x minus, this would be -2. Alright, you guys see this? We got y minus 1 equals -6 times x minus -2. Now, because I have minus a negative in the middle, this becomes positive. So we're going to go ahead and change that into x plus 2. So anytime you see two negatives side by side each other, it becomes positive. And everything else comes down if we didn't change it. It's still -1, and this is still y. And this is our answer. This is what we did in point slope form. So y minus 1 is equal to -6 times x plus 2. And we are done as far as answering the question. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to graph this equation. So graphing equation in point slope form. So here's the equation. We just made this equation. So y minus 1 equals -6 times x plus 2. So whenever we're dealing with this, when they just give us the equation itself, what we're going to do, our very first step, is to pull out the information that is given. So let's pull out the first x. We're also going to pull out y1 and slope. So let's write it here. x1 should equal what? y1 should equal what? And slope should equal what? So the very first one that jumps out will probably be slope. Slope is always going to be m. So if I'm going to label these, this is what we're going to label it at. So m is here, here's y1, and here's x1. Alright, so if you notice y1 is right by the y, and x1 is right by the x. Alright, another thing you have to understand, and let's go ahead and write slope. Slope is m, that does not change at all. And I'm going to explain that to you. So let's look at y1. y1 we have here is -1. But remember, the equation itself was already minus. That means when we take this 1 out, it would be +1. So to save some space, I want you guys to put this in your mind. Whatever x1 and y1 is, do the opposite of it. So if it's -1 here for y1, it is +1 when we take it out. So if it's -1 here, it is going to be +1 when we take it out. If it's +2 here, then it's going to be -2 when we take it out. So you can even go back and see that we had -2 and +1 and -6. So, but slope stays the same. Slope would be -6. Now, I want you guys also, because we're going to graph it, put a 1 underneath the slope if it is a whole number, or if it is a integer, just go ahead and put a 1 underneath it. Now that way we'll be able to graph it using the technique rise over run. Now the point that we're using, and we can go ahead and put it in its coordinates. The point we'll be using, x is -2, y is 1. So let's go ahead and graph it. Now here's the graph, and we're going to graph -2, 1. So guys, know that -2 on the x-axis, and it's 1 on the y-axis. So -2, we go back to 1, 2, and then 1 is right here. So here's my point, -2, 1. Now from the point, we are going to use slope. And I told you before, slope is rise over run. So I'm going to write it here. My rise is going to be -6, and my run is going to be 1. So that means my rise, actually we're going down, so it's going to be going down 6 units, and then we're going to go to the right 1 unit because it's +1. So let's go down 6 units and then go to the right 1. Let's see if I can show you guys here. So from this point, we're going to go down 6 units from this point. So let's count. Let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we went down, which is -6, down 6 units. And from here, we're going to go to the right 1 unit. So let's go to the right 1 unit. 1. My second point is here. So this is going to down 6 units and to the right 1 unit. And then we just graph the line. The line should look like this. Just went through that one, but you get the gist. Let's put it on the side. -2, 1. Alright, and that's how you would graph an equation in point-slope form. Let's see if you guys could do the same. Let me give you this example, and the example. So write an equation of in point-slope form of a line that passes through 5, 3 and the slope of 7. Go ahead and click pause and see if you got it right. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this equation in point slope form. Now know that this is our x1 and this is our y1. Okay, and then we already have m. Now the formula we're using is x minus x1 equals m times, I'm sorry, I got this backwards. Let's say it again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now all we're going to do is plug in the numbers here. So we have y minus y1 is 3 equals m, which is 7, times x minus x1 is 5. So you should have this as far as the equation goes. So let's go ahead and graph this particular equation. Now we're going to go ahead and graph it this way. Know that if I pull out, this is x, and we pull out x, it's going to be positive 5. And if we pull out y, and it's going to be positive 3. So our coordinate is 5 and 3, and our slope is just 7. So graphing 5, 3, graphing 5, 3, know that this is 7 over 1. So let's put the point at 5, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 1, 2, 3. Here's where our points start. Now we're going to do a slope of rise of 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we went up 7 units and go over 1 unit. 1. And so our line should look like this, more or less. I hope this